All right, hello everybody. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Let's Talk Bananas. As always, I'm Silverback, and got my co-host here, Josh Benware. And today we have with us the Vice President of Save the Second, Ron Carter. So we're going to go ahead and ask Ron to introduce himself and tell us a little bit about Save the Second.
Cool. So happy to be with you guys. Thank you very much for having me. Vice President of Save the Second. The title just it always weirds me out. First and foremost, I'm just an NRA member. Beyond that, I have instructor credentials, range safety officer, basic pistol, rifle, shotgun through the NRA. I wear the NRA hat. I've got a few NRA literally hats right over there. But literally and figuratively, I commonly will wear the NRA hat. But the NRA has had some troubles recently, particularly recently. But before I go into that, before we discuss that, which I'm sure we could discuss all night long, but before I go into that, I was born and raised in Arkansas, the middle of nowhere, Arkansas, DeWitt. That's just southeast of the rice and duck capital of the world. Oh yeah, buddy, they're getting ready for deer season, which the archery season is already in. Rifle season will come in November, of course. But man, that's what I grew up doing: hunting and fishing, of course, duck hunting as well. And yeah, that's where I have my roots. I did a little bit of time with the Arkansas Army National Guard. I went to college in Texas, and about just in my junior year of being in college in Texas, I decided that I'd get married, and I married a beautiful lady who's upstairs right now. I'm in my man cave. She's upstairs right now, but we moved back to her hometown in Colorado Springs, and that's where I've been for the past 13 years. So yeah, here I am, and Save the Second has been founded. I helped found it. We started that in June to try to solve the problems that the NRA is going through right now, and these problems that must be resolved, or perhaps if it doesn't, it could spell the end of the NRA.
All right, if I can get my microphone working right. So now these problems that you speak of, I mean, like everybody knows, they're having problems with certain higher ups in the NRA and the monetary thing. So there's rumors going around that the NRA is possibly going bankrupt. I don't know how true that is. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think they probably won't go bankrupt so long as you have the city council of San Francisco trying to label the NRA a terrorist organization, which ultimately rallies the troops to donate. But the problem, the financial problems, go back several years. Well, in fact, you could probably go back as far as like the origins of these financial improprieties and malfeasance. You could probably go back to the 70s, before I was born. You could go and talk to Jeff Knox, the son of Neil Knox, who had been I think he was the first vice president for a time, and there was a massive shakeup in the 70s and then another in the 90s within the leadership of the NRA, or I should say the makeup of the board of directors for the NRA. Recently, we've had a taste of that as well. With I believe it's this year, there's been 6 NRA board members who have resigned. 3 in particular resigned, directly referencing the problems of accountability with regard to finances and their inability to, have questions answered or anything. In fact, several of those board members were removed from their committee assignments. One of the most famous ones that was removed from all of his committee assignments was Dwayne Liptick Jr., Mr. Magpul. If you own any magazines, you have any AR magazines that say Magpul on them, that's Dwayne Liptick, and he is a heck of a guy, a stud, prior service Marine. Yeah, so he was removed from all of his committee assignments, kind of in retaliation. In fact, Colonel Alan West had mentioned he was removed from all of his committee assignments as a result of these financial problems, these directors trying to ask questions related to that. and then having retribution on them. And so Alan West had put a post on his Facebook, or I'm sorry, not his Facebook, his website, of the NRA being the National Retaliation Association. And just to give you kind of an idea, if you're completely in the dark about these allegations, they're not really allegations. In fact, the NRA have, they've kind of confirmed that a few of these instances of improprieties were in fact correct. For example, Wayne LaPierre, who is the CEO / vice president of the NRA, he spent $274,965.03 on a few dress suits in Beverly Hills. So more than the cost of my house, my cars combined, he spent in suits, dress suits. Now, it wouldn't be a problem for me to do with my money what I wanted to do with my money, right? And equally, Mr. Wayne LaPierre, he can do it with his money what he wants to. The problem is that he wasn't paying for it himself. He was having these clothes purchased, over $250,000 worth of dress suits purchased through the ad agency, Ackerman McQueen. Ackerman McQueen had been the advertising agency for the NRA for over 30 years. And they just recently ceased. And now there's a series of lawsuits, 3 lawsuits from the NRA against Ackerman McQueen and vice versa, countersuits. And we're talking millions of dollars in lawsuits, millions of dollars. And so the instance of an impropriety, having what some people would say embezzling money, having that happen has now, instead of been corrected, it's gone further down the rabbit hole of spending and throwing more money at lawyers and lawsuits. To what end? Who knows? The New York Attorney General now has investigations, and they're getting pretty hot and heavy with those investigations. We're looking at now potential indictments, from the New York Attorney General, at criminally charging persons within the NRA. The New York Department of Financial Services has a lawsuit that was regarding Carrie Guard, which was a failed program that the NRA had attempted to seek out as self-defense insurance. And the DC, District of Columbia Attorney General, also has an investigation into the NRA. And this is just investigations that could be really, really bad for the NRA. Removing its tax-exempt status is probably the most likely thing that will happen. And if that happens, if the NRA loses its tax-exempt status, they might as well be bankrupt. They'll be impotent at best and a thing of the past. And it's not just one instance of suits. It's continual issues, continual instances of waste of money and running the organization like it was a for-profit instead of a non-profit organization.
Right, exactly. All right, so we got a couple questions out there. The Archangel wants to know if you were talking about this 1977 NRA revolt.
Absolutely. Well, and I'm referencing that's probably where you could go and start. If somebody asks where did things go wrong, that's probably your first inclination of things going really wrong. Now, some people will say you could go back to the Hughes Amendment, in '86, or you could go further back into the '30s with the National Firearms Act, right? So the NFA, banning short-barreled shotguns, short-barreled rifles, silencers for just ownership and whatnot, unless you had a tax stamp, right? Unless you had that $200 tax stamp, and then of course the Hughes Amendment outlawing machine guns made after 1986, the ownership of those by civilians. So I mean, you could probably say that the NRA has had a troubled past, to say the least. And right now it's in the thick of it, man. I mean, things are coming to a head with failed leadership and the inability for directors to do anything but rubber stamp an affirmation onto what the boss is wanting to do. No, I believe you're muted.
Oh, okay, sorry. My little thumb's working the wrong way. Daniel was asking, how about the multi-million-dollar mansion LaPierre wanted the NRA to pay for?
Yep, absolutely. And that happened, if my memory serves correct, right after not Sandy Hook. It was right after Parkland. Sorry. So the Parkland, Florida mass murder. Yeah. So during this time, apparently Wayne LaPierre was feeling, or at least what the report was, what the official NRA saying is that Wayne LaPierre was becoming very fearful for his safety, and he wanted to move. And so, sure enough, they found a mansion. I say they. I'm not sure exactly who they were. I assume that it was William Brewer, who is now practically the only legal counsel for the NRA, Brewer Counselors and Associates. I believe because he's in Dallas, he had tried to work a deal to try and get this mansion that is just outside of Dallas and on a golf course for Wayne LaPierre. It's $6 million that Wayne LaPierre wasn't going to purchase himself. The NRA was going to spend that for him, right? And in order to kind of have a claim on the house, from my understanding, there was like an initial deposit of $70,000. And that $70,000 didn't come from what the NRA was blaming its advertising agency, and now former advertising agency, Ackerman McQueen. They said, "Oh, Ackerman McQueen was behind that. It was their idea. They had the money, for it, the $70,000." Ackerman McQueen came back and said, "Actually, we have a copy of that check. It's not from us. It's from some other LLC that was just created out of the blue for Wayne LaPierre." So, I mean, if that doesn't smell of money laundering, I don't know what does. And that's our dues and charitable donations as members. And so it's ridiculously frustrating.
So you're speaking of,
go ahead.
Oh, no, I was gonna say, you were speaking about the Carrie Guard. So what I heard not too long, because I work for US Law Shield, and I was hearing about that Carrie Guard that they're the insurance company. I can't remember who it was. There was an insurance company that who was it?
Lockton Affinity.
Okay, there was wasn't there someone before them?
I don't believe so. I believe Lockton had been the underwriter for that insurance plan from the get-go, and they had also done NRA insurance for instructors as well. Sorry, but continue.
Okay, well, this was like some self-defense insurance or something like that cost like $650 a year. And but now I heard that whatever insurance company it was decided to back out. Like after something happened or NRA supported something, they backed out and they no longer provided the insurance for the NRA. So all the people that were paying $650 a year, which is a lot for self-defense insurance compared to most companies, they all got screwed. They had nobody to cover them during that period. And I can't remember who it was. It was a popular name. It was a popular company.
I'm almost certain that was Lockton Affinity. Now I may be wrong. I'm not an insurance guy. In fact, I was a member. I am a member of Second Call Defense, and when I first got my basic handgun or basic pistol instructor certificate, I can teach handguns now, yay, from the NRA. That was actually really a sticking point, because the NRA had just released that they were going to start blended learning for new students. Blended learning was exactly the opposite of what the NRA had always taught its instructors. Its instructors always have to have BIT or basic instructor training, and if in some cases if you've had, I think, 2 years between your instructor classes, and you'll have to take BIT over again. So with every new certification that you have a 2-year rolling period where you have to retake basic instructor training with the NRA if you're doing other credentials. And basic instructor training, kind of the foundation of that is TSA: tell them, show them, ask them to perform the task. Talking about your students, tell them, hey, and by the way, this is a blue gun. I have a blue gun in my hands, everybody. It's a blue gun. Oh my God. You tell them, hey, I want you to hit this target. Okay. And then you show them, this is how you're going to do it. Pop goes the weasel. I hit the target. And then you ask them to perform that. Well, blended learning started the downfall, and it was getting ready for Carrie Guard. Essentially, blended learning said, well, your students don't really need tell them, show them, ask them. We'll have you have the students complete computer-based training before they get to you, so that when you get on the range, you can just take them and go. And so all the instructors like, wait, what? You mean my whole classroom portion, basically, where I'm explaining all of this and giving the education, doesn't matter anymore? And essentially the NRA is like, yeah. Oh, and by the way, we're going to start Carrie Guard. And this was in 2017. And they uninvited USCCA to the NRA annual meeting in 2017. So as a rollout for Carrie Guard, so I don't know who thought this through, but okay. So in hindsight, now I kind of see the picture. It's a guy by the name of Josh Powell, who had taken the reins and it had, introduced blended learning and, had helped get Carrie Guard off the ground, even though it never really got off the ground. It just kind of crashed and burned into a field and, had tons of $1 million carnage left in its wake. But yeah, so if I can point to anyone that is responsible for this massive disaster of millions of dollars spent and just wasting them away, and then of course hurting all of the NRA instructors in the process, well, I'd say it's Josh Powell. He's probably responsible. He's still working there today. Yeah, so no accountability. And guess what? It gets better. He has had 2 allegations of sexual harassment. One of those was severe enough where the firm Ackerman McQueen actually banned him from speaking to any of their employees. Okay? And they settled. They settled out of court. Guess who settled? The NRA settled. The NRA paid for the settlement of these allegations that apparently were going to go to, trial and whatnot. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer either, but sure enough, the NRA settled, further wasting our money. And guess who's still working there today? Josh Powell. Buddy, dude, this is like a soap opera that's so stupid bad that I just want to turn off the channel, but it's my NRA. And they're the last large group that could potentially save our Second Amendment and, of course, increase hunting, firearms education, instructors, and just build a better culture of, that all the way around. But instead, they're just, they're driving it right into the ground.
Right. And a lot of people are saying, they're actually pushing gun control agenda versus, saving the Second Amendment, like this whole thing with the bump stock, trying to further that and also bringing up the red flag laws. What's your take on that?
I totally agree on both of those. In fact, I started to get really heated and just mad at the NRA back when, I watched Wayne LaPierre and Chris Cox on stage say, "Oh, bump stocks? Oh, we think the ATF should reevaluate bump stocks." You're like, wait, what? What's that Second Amendment thing again? Shall not be infringed, or maybe be infringed, or like bump stocks only should be infringed. What is it, right? Dude, I got so mad at that. I absolutely so mad. And here in Colorado, I'm in Colorado, right? We have an ERPO, an Emergency Arrest Protection Order, or red flag law that goes into effect January 1st. Dude, that scares me. It absolutely scares me, especially with the way that it's written, because anybody that I lived with in my history would be considered, a person who could be acknowledged as a suitable person, a suitable reporting party for me being a hazard to anybody else. In other words, let me just dumb this down. Here's how a scenario could play out. So I went to basic training in 2003. Okay. Basic training. I lived with a lot of guys in those barracks. And because I lived with them, if one of those guys said, "Oh man, he was just, Ron's such a bad guy." He calls up my county's sheriff's department and says, "Oh, this Ron guy, man, he's, I'm sure he's just, emotionally unhinged and he's probably just going to kill somebody." Well, that's enough for the CRPO law as it's written for my county sheriff to come in and confiscate every firearm and knife that I own, any weapon, right? So where was the NRA, right? The NRA was not in Colorado when this was going through. In fact, the only group that I remember prominently fighting this ERPO, and I mean prominently fighting it, was Rally for Our Rights. And that's a brand new group that started up, Rally for Our Rights. They're awesome. Leslie Hollywood is the lady that's just taking the bull by the horns for Rally for Our Rights. She started it, founded it. She's doing great stuff. Rocky Mountain Gun Owners Association, they did a little bit, but I mean, it was just a drop in a bucket, right? I mean, it really didn't amount to much. And of course, we now have an ERPO. Where was the NRA? So at the annual meeting, the NRA annual meeting in April, which was in Indianapolis, you have a section called the members meeting, which the members have a meeting and they can go to. And historically, it's been like a cheerleading session, right? Pat yourself on the back. We've done a great job. We're the NRA, and let's sing the Star Spangled Banner and let's pledge allegiance and, hug some old necks and kiss some babies. And well, it turned. A lot of members were absolutely just disheartened from all of this, bump stocks and ERPOs, red flag laws, and so on and so forth, Carrie Guard and all that. And so there was a resolution that was submitted on the floor to remove Wayne LaPierre, Josh Powell, and others. And that started the debate. I got up and spoke. I debated. In fact, I debated a past president of the NRA, Jim Porter, during this. And that's one of the things I mentioned. I'm like, hey guys, we've got an ERPO that just went into, law. It's going into effect January 1st. Where is my NRA there? What's going on? We're patting each other on the back and this is happening, right? Well, long story short, that's when I started trying to get active in reforming the NRA. And that's when I started reaching out to people to try to see how I could go about doing it and get with like-minded folks that had a passion to see the NRA better. And that's what Save the Second has become. We started off as a Facebook group called NRA Members for Accountability. And I started reaching out just to anybody that wanted to be a part of that. And we quickly realized, well, the NRA is not going to like the fact that NRA is in our title, NRA Members for Accountability. So they're going to probably go with a cease and desist order. So we got to do something else, right? How about Save the Second? Yeah, because hey, if we're able to make the NRA better, then ultimately a strong, relevant, effective, and accountable NRA that has millions of dollars in the pockets to actually fight for our rights, and doing so, yeah, that's probably a very big asset in saving the Second Amendment.
Yeah, being as the NRA definitely is the largest group out there that's supposed to be a pro-2A group that's fighting for our rights. I mean, they have their hands in a lot of things. Around here in Virginia, where I live, I want to say every shooting range I've been to, it has NRA insurance that covers the shooting range. Some of them even ask you to be an NRA member to actually become a member of their and shoot at their range, because that way, I don't know, there's some clause saying that if you're an NRA member, you're covered under the NRA insurance better than if you're not, I guess. I don't know what the whole deal with that is. I never really asked. Like you said, they were trying to get into the Carrie Guard thing, the concealed carry or carry insurance, but also with all this instructor stuff too, because it seems like you have to be an NRA certified instructor to actually be an instructor. So they get offer all those classes and everything too. So they have a big, broad spectrum of things that they do. So the other thing too is that NRA ILA. Now, is that a whole separate entity, or is it still part of the NRA?
It used to operate more separately. Chris Cox was over that, and of course, I think Liberty Doll was the one that said, Chris Cox, the guy that's like the creepy ex-boyfriend that just keeps trying to, make contact with you, sending you emails and letters and stuff. Yeah, Chris Cox, apparently, I never met the guy and whatnot, but apparently he's legitimate, a very good shooter, loves firearms and whatnot. And of course, he was accused, I think it was back in late May, early June, he was accused of being a part of this group of people that tried to revolt against Wayne LaPierre. And he ended up being suspended in lieu of, being removed, and he just resigned. He's like, okay, I'm done. It's been nice. Goodbye. He resigned from the NRA. There were several resignations. In fact, we have that on our website. You can go to save the2a.org, save the number 2a.org. We've got a why reform page. Click on that, and we've got the people who have resigned. Not only the board of directors, but the employees. The ILA, the Institute for Legislative Action, to answer your question, yeah, it's supposed to be the lobbying arm, right? So the guys that are on Capitol Hill actually lobbying for pro Second Amendment and against, anti-gun legislations, and that's what they're supposed to do. And they're the largest lobbying group for the Second Amendment that is in the United States. So it's not that the NRA is just like they're just so massive. It's that the ILA, the Institute for Legislative Action, the NRA ILA, they're the only ones that have lobbyists. Well, true lobbyists. Like, for example, if you go to Firearms Policy Coalition, which, dude, they're doing amazing. I love them to death. Yeah, Matt Law. Yeah, Matt's a good guy. And of course, Adam Crowd is now working for Firearms Policy Coalition, but they don't have a group of lawyers. They don't have a separate firearms policy. They have a foundation, but they don't have an Institute for Legislative Action or a lobbying branch that devotes its entire structure to lobbying efforts at the federal level. I do believe that FPC, Firearms Policy Coalition, has several lobbyists in the state of California, that's really important and exceptionally exciting that we actually have some pro 2A lobbyists in the communist Republic of California. That, by the way, that's sarcasm, but
right.
Yeah.
I want to say, didn't the Firearms Policy Coalition start out in California?
I believe so. I'm not sure of exactly their roots. Of course, they're doing stuff all around the nation now. And they're doing a really, like I said, like just everything that I've seen from them. I'm not a cheerleader for anybody, but I've been really happy to see them. I mean, 5 years ago, I don't think there was a FPC 5 years ago. So having that new organization fighting for our rights come up is exceptionally encouraging to me, especially should the NRA fail. If tomorrow they close their doors, all these other groups are going to have to pick up a lot of slack really fast, stupid fast. And there's going to be a void, especially for the lobbyists. Like I said, the Institute for Legislative Action, the NRA ILA, they've got a ton of lobbyists. And if they close their doors tomorrow, all of those lawsuits that they're working on, all of the work that they're doing on Capitol Hill, it vanishes. It's gone. So these other groups are going to have to play catch up really fast. And that, I think that's what we really saw, not last weekend, but the weekend before in Phoenix with the Gun Rights Policy Conference. Saw a lot of folks stepping up. The DC Project lady, oh my goodness gracious, what was her name? Dana Mueller? No, look her up. DC Project. That it looks like she's getting ready to just lead the way in the fight for the Second Amendment, and it's inspiring. And Rob Pincus, of course, who's with Save the Second, he spoke about all of us as gun owners being the front. We are the Second Amendment advocacy. It's not necessarily the NRA or FPC or GOA or whoever. We as gun owners are the persons who should be lobbying and fighting for our rights. We can't have this proxy of, well, I gave my $30 due this year, and so I did my part. No, absolutely not. These are our rights. Why don't we fight for our rights? Go and be a member of anybody and everybody that's fighting for the Second Amendment. Don't get me wrong, but also call your congressman. Write some letters, do something like that. Go to a rally. Which, by the way, I believe it was Gun Loving Grandpa. Yeah, he mentioned earlier on. I saw that. Sure enough, there's an NRA. I'm sorry, not NRA. There is a Second Amendment rally November 2nd at the Capitol grounds in Washington, D.C. Buddy, I'm going. I'm absolutely going. I want to encourage any of you guys that can make it to do it.
Yeah, that's been floating around. I've seen that come up about a week or two ago, where they were putting that together. There's going to be a lot of big people there. I believe Maj Toure is going.
I love that dude. I love him so much.
He is amazing. I want to say some of the guys from I don't know if you've ever heard of the Virginia Citizens Defense League.
Yeah. And they were doing some really good stuff. Was it last month showing up? And yeah,
those guys are very active here in Virginia, and I tell you, they are so on top of it. Philip Van Cleve, he's just amazing how he can just talk to these people and just really show them, the true nature of gun owners. And he's like, your argument doesn't hold water, and he shows them that it doesn't hold water. He's been all over the news. He's always in newspapers, articles, and all kinds of stuff. He's very active. And they always put out these emails to get the members, the VCDL members, which I'm a part of the VCDL, to write our Congress people and everybody to tell them how we disagree with the anti-gun laws that they're trying to push on us and everything else like that. So, but we've got an interesting fight ahead of us here come November 5th with the general session that's going to happen, because the one what that happened in July that was kind of forced closed by the GOP here. Because they're basically they were just running off of emotion, and everybody was like, it's just an election year stunt. So why don't we reconvene this after the election is over, so we know that people aren't voting for you, or you're pushing your agenda to gain votes that you shouldn't really be gaining or whatever. But they've also redrawn the districting map here in Virginia.
Eek.
And it kind of gives the Democrats a slight edge. So we're also fighting against that as well. So,
yeah. And, here's a problem that I've noticed. And some, of course, this is my opinion. You could certainly have a different opinion. That's okay. I've seen more and more a divisiveness between Republican and Democrat and pro-gun and anti-gun. I mean, it's escalating, right? I mean, it's not like, in 1993 after, or I'm sorry, that was 1998, after Jonesboro, Arkansas, a couple kids, opened fire on their classmates, in a murder up there. It's not like then where we had this kind of clash between pro-gun and anti-gun, and then, okay, we'll mourn and whatnot. Now we have full-blown confrontations. I mean, it's just, boom, the two sides are just meeting straight on. Beto O'Rourke, of course, Josh, he's apparently not too far away from you. But I mean, this guy he's just going full steam, absolutely full steam at demonizing anyone who loves firearms or enjoys their constitutional rights. And on the other side, you have, and I hate to say it, I mean, trust me, I don't want to just absolutely throw shade at the NRA all day, every day for every little thing, but they are not trying to make converts. Instead, they're going and meeting it right back. Oh no, these guys just want to take away your rights. And it's a fight that keeps escalating and escalating and escalating. That, folks, that's not good. That's not healthy. If you have a confrontation that continues to escalate, guess what? It's going to continue to escalate to force. That's just the natural thing of it. If I meet a guy, say, in a parking lot that I don't like, and we start trading back and forth, and we escalate our confrontation and escalate, guess what? It's going to escalate probably to shoves, fists, maybe weapons. Who knows? I mean, that's just how confrontations work. So we have this. We have a really desperate situation right now where we need to de-escalate instead of continue to escalate. We need to show people, hey, I get it. People die, and it's horrible. It shouldn't happen. It should never happen. But guess what? This tool, this blue gun, obviously can't do anything. But obviously we need to be able to de-escalate and say, hey guys, you have a misconception about this inanimate object that cannot do anything unless it is manipulated by a human. We need to de-escalate to that point of being able to not necessarily just call out Democrats and say all Democrats are gun grabbers. Well, I mean, no. And guess what? Not all Republicans enjoy the Second Amendment. Okay, so
Yeah.
there needs to be some sort of de-escalation nationally where we can try to make converts. Essentially, I went to a Bible college, so I don't want to get too biblical on you, but if you read the New Testament, Jesus was making disciples, and he sent those disciples to go make more disciples and to make disciples of all nations. Right. So that's kind of the way that I look at this conversation. We need to first of all de-escalate it to where we can have a conversation, and a personal one, not I'm angry on Facebook, blah 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 blah, shall not be infringed, enter. No. Okay, we need to have that conversation where we're literally taking people who have never shot a gun before to shoot for the first time, and we want to heck take them out to IDPA, USPSA, skeet and traps, hunting. Dude, there are so many ways that we could change the entire dynamic by inviting and being inviting to others and showing them the joys of shooting instead of continually escalating. Shall not be infringed, enter. No.
Yeah, I think a lot of that, shall not be infringed thing comes from, and it's becoming more inherent, especially with the Democrats, and they're not hiding their, I guess, hatred towards the Second Amendment,
right.
Guns or whatever their agenda. But, and it seems there's a lot more of them that are becoming more socialist than anything,
definitely.
So
yeah, that is very concerning to me. Now I'm more of a libertarian than anything. That's just my political view, and it really doesn't matter, right? I'm not here to preach to you about being a libertarian or being a follower of Jesus or anything like that. If anything, I'm going to be here to teach you about how we can influence the conversations surrounding the advancement of the Second Amendment, and of course, trying to make the NRA do its job in doing a better job at that and their financial responsibilities, especially if they should survive all of this drama.
Well, I mean, if an AR-15 is as heavy as 10 boxes, why would anybody want to have one?
Hang on. It's so heavy.
You look like you're having a hard time with that.
Oh my gosh! I just really needed a workout today, so you know what I did? I just grabbed the AR-15. Oh, it's so heavy. Oh my gosh!
All right. So we did have a question out there, and it goes along with kind of what I was saying. And Daniel says, how can we combat the leftist education in our society and in schools?
Oh man, that is an excellent question. And I'll tell you why it's an excellent question, and it's one that's dear to me. I hate Adolf Hitler and what he did and what he stood for and everything like that. But he said something that was very true. He said, "Give me a generation, and I'll change the world." And he nearly pulled that off. And guess what? That's kind of what's going on right now. You're seeing in schools, especially, this demonization of firearms. You're not seeing the skeet and trap team anymore, or the small bore team. I shot competitive, at 4-H when I was in. Of course, 4-H is more rural stuff, but I went to the University of Arkansas and shot in my sophomore, junior, and high school years in a university. And that's few and far between now. So how can we influence that? Being involved. My kids are young right now. I've got a 7-year-old and an 11-year-old. My 11-year-old, she's really getting into sports. She just finished up her cross country, her first season of cross country, and she loved it. And buddy, I'm going to try to get her. Well, hopefully I can get the school to sign off on some sort of agreement with 4-H shooting and the school, so that there's a club that's continually going. But none of that's going to happen unless you're involved. If you're just sitting back on the couch, that ain't going to happen. Somebody has to do it. So involvement is the only way that I can see that doing. And of course, you can get with not only 4-H, but say if you're with an Assemblies of God church, the Royal Rangers has a program, a shooting program in that. I believe there's a Church of Christ shooting program. And those are religious ones. But you also have Boy Scouts, I think, that still do a little bit of shooting. The U.S. Olympic Committee still does a lot of shooting. man, there's tons of ways to get involved. You just have to get involved. You have to go and ask questions. Hey, where can I be involved in shooting? Yeah, I mean, it all starts sometimes with a Google search or a phone call or perhaps both, multiple, I don't know. But if you're wanting to truly influence this demonization of the Second Amendment and firearms in schools, you have to be involved.
Right. Yeah. You just got to really show people that, it's not scary, regardless of what you're hearing, you know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's always great every time I find somebody who, has never owned a firearm, but is like, well, I would like to give it a shot. So I'm like, well, come on, let's go out, let's do it, and
Oh,
quite
heck
a
yes.
few of them have become firearms owners because of that.
Yeah. Now, I worked at a gun shop for a little while here in Colorado Springs, and one of the reasons why I wanted to become an instructor was because I was, working at this gun shop, and I was seeing people every day come in and say, "Hey, what should I, carry? What gun should I carry, or what rifle should I, hunt deer with, or what's the best 3-gun, shotgun, so on and so forth." And so, of course, I had a lot of opinions, right, as we all do. If you don't have an opinion, you're wrong. You need to have an opinion. Glocks are the best. Okay, that's a joke. It's a joke. No, I really enjoyed the conversations, but ultimately the conversations inside the gun shop led to the range. Because if you're not shooting at the range, it's all speculation. This gun is too heavy, doesn't fit my hands, blah blah blah. Well, okay, let's go shoot it and see if that's actually the case. So getting to the range, man, that is huge, huge, huge. Oh, and Daniel says CZ Life. Oh, homie. Oh my gosh. Yeah, dude, I saw that. Oh, uh-huh. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Justin got his there too.
Oh.
Well, there was one thing I forgot on. I was going to bring it up, but you had mentioned the Olympics. And now there was a thing, I don't know if it's still happening, but they were talking about pulling shooting out of the Olympics. I mean, have they done that, or
No,
I haven't followed much of that?
I still live here in Colorado Springs, which is like U.S. Olympic headquarters, I guess, or the Olympic City. I don't know. It's weird because that's in Washington State, Olympia, right? I don't know, but no. So they have not removed any of the sports that were in the previous Olympics. The only shooting sport that I remember them removing was when I was a kid. There was a sport, I forget, it was some sort of like competition boar shooting esque thing where they would have a moving target, and you'd have to shoot the moving target on the ground with a rifle, and they ended up getting rid of that. And of course, they've got the skeet trap, the small bore, the rifle, and there's like the winter shooting, like a skiing shooting thing. I mean, these sports, of course, they're done all around the world. France actually has a really good team, and apparently it's really easy to go and shoot competitively in France. Ironically enough, I would have never known that, until I started reading about it. What's her name? Gabby Franco was, I'm not sure if she's still competing or not, but she was a U.S. Olympian in shooting, and she was also on First Shot, and she still shoots competitively. Great lady. Kim Rohde, who's out of California, has 6 gold medals from 6 previous Olympics. Now she's got a lot more medals than that, but she's taken a gold medal in the past 6 Olympics, and she's now the only Olympian in history that has that many in consecutive Olympics, and she's trying for another one. So to make it 7, she's an amazing shooter. I don't think that you'll see people remove that. I mean, sure, there'll be some outcries, and you probably won't see those games on CBS, NBC, or ABC, any of the major networks. It exists, though, and it's probably going to stay around because those participants and those who are involved in that sport, they're not getting involved. They're ignoring. They're taking the high ground. They're not paying attention to this stuff. They're not engaging in, this semi-automatic needs to be banned, blah 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 blah. They're just taking the high ground and doing what they do and enjoying what they do. It's weird, though. I would expect, of course, some of them to get in the fight, and it's even more weird because Kim Rhodey, she mentioned a few years back, she's like, yeah, when a drunk driver runs over a cyclist, nobody calls up, an Olympic cyclist to hear his thoughts. So, oh, that's frustrating. But I think the Olympics are okay. It's our rights that are definitely on the line.
Right. Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting how you mentioned it was pretty easy to get into competitive shooting over in France. And I got a subscriber on my channel who I've had a conversation with, and he's actually from France, and he's a gun guy and all that. But he says, as far as being a civilian over there owning a gun, you can own one, no problem, but it has to stay at the sports club. And that's the only time you can use it, and it can never leave the sports club. So I was like, wow, that's I don't know how I'd live with that.
Yeah, so much for practice, right? Or trying to defend your life if somebody breaks in here. And of course, that's where my mind automatically goes, because I use a lot of firearms almost entirely within the application of self-defense and defending my loved ones. So now, granted, I do competition shooting, but even that, International Defensive Pistol Association, IDPA, is what I shoot commonly. That still has that flavor of defensive application. Hunting is, very similar. I mean, you're harvesting game, but it's not on the same level as the Olympics or as your buddies in France that are going to their sports club to shoot for fun. Yeah. I have the lens, if I had my glasses around here, the lens of defensive application, which clouds my vision in just about everything.
Yeah, I mean, if I couldn't shoot every time I wanted to shoot, because I got a little shooting range out in my backyard, and if I just couldn't walk out there and just pop off some rounds, I don't know what I'd do, man.
Oh my gosh, I'm so jealous.
I get that itch. I just got to get out there. It's hard for me to wait.
Shut up, Silverback.
I mean, that was the biggest humble brag I think I've heard this week.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, I'm just lucky I live in a nice county where they have very few ordinances on guns. The main ordinance is basically making sure that you're within a specific distance from dwellings and from roads, and then the only other ordinance there is no hunting with rifles. So that's it. So it's pretty open. I live out in the country area. There's a big outdoor shooting range right around the corner from my house, the next road over too. So I hear sounds of freedom all day, every day. It's great.
Oh, I love that a lot. Growing up in Arkansas, man, right around that Thanksgiving time frame when duck season opens, it is the funniest thing, man. If you get out around dawn, you'll just hear boop, 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 boop. And then, about 15 minutes later, just all of these duck hunters, opening fire simultaneously when the flocks are coming in. And you cannot go around, well, really the southern Mississippi River area around that time frame without hearing these massive volleys of fire just about anywhere. It's wonderful. I love that sound.
We have those too here in Corpus, but they're usually drive-by shootings. So
yeah, only they don't hit anything.
Yeah,
that's the thing here is you can fire shots here. I have fired shots in the city because I had to, and
Wow.
And my neighbor is a deputy, and I live close. There's people all around me. Nobody called the cops. We've had gunshots fired lots of times, and cops never show up. We even had a bullet hole in my son's room from the outside wall all the way in.
Holy crap!
Yeah, and no cops, nothing. I mean, it's it's out of hand here, man. Like, there's no cops here, but there's a lot of people. We're just reaching over 300,000. We're 305,000 people. And our police department is a third of the size it's supposed to be. And yeah, man. I mean, you'll hear gunshots. You'll never see police driving around or nothing, though.
Wow, that's
you'll never see. You'll
heck of a job.
Yeah. But here's the thing that gets me is about 3-4 months ago, I guess. my son calls me while I'm working, and he says, "Did you try to drive my car?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he says, the steering wheel, the case around it is ripped off, the cover, and there's wires hanging down, and they're cut." And I said, "Someone tried to hotwire your car. Call the police." So I work in Portland. I drive to Corpus from Portland, which takes about 20, 30 minutes. And I had to drop stuff off and everything before I could come over here. By the time I get here, it had been about 30, 45 minutes. And we sat here, and he had already called the police as soon as I got off the phone with him. Then we waited another hour, and then I said, screw it, and I left because the police weren't showing up. I called them again, too, to say, hey, what the hell's the deal? And then I left back to Portland, and by the time I got there, 20 minutes later, so altogether, I'd say 2 hours, 20 minutes probably altogether before the police finally showed up here to take a report. They left 3 pairs of sunglasses and a bunch of other crap in the driver's seat, in the passenger seat. The police didn't take fingerprints or nothing. They're just like, yeah, well, it'd probably be cheaper for you just to buy the parts and splice it yourself and fix it yourself than to go through insurance. And they didn't even report it as a burglary. They didn't take a report or nothing. And it took them 2.5 hours to get here. So here's the thing that pissed me off, though. When I'm driving back to Portland, there's a highway, you know, there's the Harbor Bridge and then all that going to North Beach before you hit Portland, which is part of Corpus. I see 6, I shit you not, 6 cops doing traffic stops. Just sitting there doing traffic stops, you know? 6 cops sitting on the side of the road. And I'm like, okay, so we have to wait over nearly 3 hours for someone to come and even take a report on someone breaking into a brand new car and destroying it. But you have 6 cops that are able to just sit there on the side of the road and rack up money and speeding tickets for the city, you know?
Yeah. Yep. That's what it's all about, man. Because that call that you guys made was not bringing them any revenue. So,
yeah,
they're really taking that ruling to heart that, you know, cops aren't there to protect and serve. They're only there to collect revenue.
And you know that my opinions on that, I've had the pleasure of having several friends that have become police officers, and you know, I've got a buddy of mine that's a FBI agent, you know, cool guy. But it's interesting how different each department is. You know, in some cases, your city will have several different departments within that city. You know, large cities. You know, so and every one of them is going to operate differently. And in some cases, you'll have, you know, a department that has specifically X amount of officers that are only doing traffic, and they're only doing traffic in certain high risk areas that have had, you know, massive, you know, fatalities and whatnot. Here in Colorado, you know, I drive back and forth between Colorado Springs and Denver. Buddy, let me tell you that interstate right now is it is unbelievably treacherous. It's dangerous. We've had 640 some odd traffic deaths this year, and it's just the opposite. I haven't seen anybody be pulled over in this ridiculously dangerous area. You got people, you know, flying by 90 miles an hour through construction, and I've seen more wrecks in the past 2 years than I've seen in my entire life. And so these prioritizations, you know, of resources are just always leaves me scratching my head. But yeah, if we ever trust a government entity to do something good, you better believe they're going to do the opposite. Yeah.
That's
well, it got me.
Oh, go ahead, Josh.
No, I was just gonna say what got me was I was doing a training class recently, and there was an ICE agent, there's an ATF agent, and other federal agents there, and I was talking about we were talking about something, and they were like, "You'd be surprised, we don't communicate with each other like the FBI, CIA, DEA, ATF. They pretty much have no communication with each other. It's kind of crazy. I mean, you would think that they're like all on board and on top of stuff all together, but no, they don't. They pretty much have no communication between the agencies."
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that has changed, you know, obviously since disasters like Waco, where the ATF just had obviously a massive black eye, several, you know, agents dead, as a result, and they reformed their department as a result. Miami for the FBI, and what was that 86? The 86 shootout that transformed their agency. And all of these agencies, even after 9/11, they started communicating better. They came under Homeland Security, but yeah, I mean it's just a government entity. Like, hey, don't be surprised, if red tape and bureaucracy, shines through, everything. Oh, yeah, that's always frustrating.
Yeah.
Not sure what he was getting at here. Past 2 years when recreational pot was legalized.
So in the state of Colorado, about, what was it, 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, let's say 5, it was legalized in the state of Colorado. And that's changed Colorado dramatically. It's, night and day different. I have mixed opinions on it, mixed emotions. On the one hand, I'm absolutely for liberty, especially if you're not hurting someone, either physically or monetarily or something. You're not stealing their stuff. You're not committing larceny or whatever. Okay, go ahead and hurt your body. You want to vape? Vape. You want to smoke cigars? Smoke cigars. You want to smoke weed? Smoke weed. That's the libertarian in me really coming out, right? It's none of my business what you do. Just don't hurt me and my family or anything that I love or treasure, right? On the other hand, oh my good God, the amount of riffraff that have come in and the amount of crime that has skyrocketed in Colorado, and just the amount of the population. I mean, it's like half of California said, let's move to Colorado. And they did it immediately. Yeah, our roads, of course, have suffered tremendously. Our housing prices have gone through the roof, which, I mean, heck, maybe now's a good time for me to sell and go somewhere else. I don't know, but I love my neighborhood. I love my neighbors. And I'm probably in the most conservative part of Colorado. I have 4 major military installations all within a 30-minute drive of me. And all of my neighbors are some former facet affiliated with, a branch of the military. Got a lot of Chair Force neighbors. And notice I said Chair Force. I love my Air Force brethren and their air conditioning and ice cream in their dining facility. No, I mean, I am in an area that is not only conservative, but can't partake in marijuana because it's still federally illegal. I work for an airline. Okay, that's my day job, right? I'm under federal laws. So if I take a drug test and I had marijuana, well, great. It was legal in Colorado, but it's illegal federally, and it's a felony for me. So if I have a drug test and I had marijuana, all of a sudden I'm a felon. I'm a prohibited person. I can't own any firearms. I do not pass go. I do not collect $200. And what is legal has just ruined my life. And the same thing with all of my, military brothers and sisters around here. I mean, you think the military can smoke weed? Nope. Guess what happens? Article 15 and dishonorable discharge. And that ain't pretty. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Daniel, I guess he was referring to the car crashes because of the use of marijuana since it's been legalized.
Oh, well, that I'll have to ask around. I mean, we still see far more of alcohol-related traffic wrecks and so on. I'm not sure exactly how marijuana plays into the traffic. Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, I could speculate, but I really don't like doing that.
Well, I was a pothead when I was a kid, and I was a damn good driver because I was paranoid. I didn't want to get pulled over. I was worried about tapping the back of someone's bumper, so I stopped way before and be very careful. I was extra cautious. I mean, that was just me. I never got in trouble whenever I was younger, and I used to smoke pot and drive. I was a better driver. Like if I drove earlier and I got pissed off and had road rage and then I smoked pot later, I was like, man, I wish I could apologize to that person. That was me.
Oh.
Same boat there, because like I said, living up in Massachusetts, we did a lot of that kind of stuff when I was younger, and I was always a lot more cautious on the road, double checking everything, and always making sure, if anything, I wasn't going any more than 5 miles over the speed limit. So, you know, yeah, you definitely
Yeah.
want to get pulled over, because then you're like, oh, it turns into a Beavis and Butthead type moment, you know?
Oh, geez. What does Daniel say there? Daniel, God is my judge. He says, when I was young, pot does give you head spins.
I never really got any head spins from pot unless I was like completely drunk, and then it would make me spin a little bit. But yeah, just smoking in general, you know, I just got a little euphoric, but that was really about it.
Yeah, and that, you know, that's a can of worms, obviously, but something, of course, I think the NRA should, you know, at least have a conversation about. I mean, if the NRA is for our rights, I mean, you have now military veterans who have, you know, terrible injuries associated with their enlistments and commissions. And so if they have these injuries and whatnot, and they're prescribed CBD oil or something like that, well, guess what? That's still a controlled substance. That's okay. That's still federally illegal. And so if somebody,
CBD oil?
I believe so. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I may be wrong. I believe CBD oils and that's a derivative of you know, the marijuana plants, right? And so it's still a controlled
It
substance.
comes more from hemp than it does the actual
Yeah,
marijuana.
it doesn't have THC. I don't think there's any regulation as of yet. They're still working on that, but as of right now, there's no regulations on it as far as, so it's not like I could smoke CBD oil, put it on in a dropper on my tongue or whatever, and carry a firearm, and it's completely, there's no law against it whatsoever.
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
So
every tobacco store or vape store around here sells it. So
Now, I guess I'm just showing my ignorance on it because I'm not familiar exactly with that. But still, I am familiar with marijuana being federally illegal, and ownership or smoking, being addicted, as the 4473 form says, you know, of marijuana. Well, that makes you a prohibited person, right? So you can't own firearms, and
yeah.
if you have marijuana and firearms, that's a felony, prohibited person, right? If you do have these, you know, persons that are being prescribed. Oh, look at that! You've got some of that right there. That's interesting.
Wait, I'm trying to get the gun in the picture with it.
Come
Come and take it, Beto.
Well, I mean,
Come take it, Francis.
Francis.
and this might be an, you know, also an avenue of discussion on the mental health aspect, right? I mean, it seems like right now it's, you know, buy it back. How does that help anything? It doesn't. Then why are we doing it, right? Yeah, CBD EDC. That's good. That's really good.
Who said that?
Oh my gosh.
Mario Mechanic. Yeah.
Good. I like that.
Yeah. What if mental health is a problem and should be addressed, and potentially marijuana or any of these you know, items that would be federally illegal could help, but yet would, you know, make their rights of owning a firearm cease. That's just laced with conundrums, and something that, I mean, that seems like a far more interesting conversation than come and take it or I'm coming to take it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I wish there were more interesting conversations, at least on the NRA side, on how they can combat that, how they can help people that would have, you know, a reason to have, you know, like a prescription for a marijuana or something, or just you know, want to partake in it, you know, and get it off of the federal list of, you know, felonies, I guess you would say. I'm not even sure what that is called. I'm showing my ignorance on that, but
they kind of just need to like decriminalize it, really. I mean, a lot of states have done that, just decriminalized it, not necessarily making it completely illegal or whatever, but they decriminalize it because a lot of people are getting sentenced to jail and wasting taxpayer money over like the smallest little amounts of it and everything, you know, and it's not really it's not really hurting anybody. Let's just put it that way. You know, it's not like alcohol where, you know, it's going to completely impair your judgment and, it doesn't make your body go weak, or you can't control yourself or whatever like that. I mean, everybody's different, so I mean, I'm sure it reacts different with some people than it does with others. Like I said, I've never had an issue in the past when I was younger. But I noticed the only thing for me that it did later on, which is why I just quit, because it became a waste of money, because like within 5 minutes I'd be sleeping, so it's like, it's kind of a waste of money if it's just going to put me to sleep. So, I guess my old age and, burning myself out on it, I guess, I don't know. But
I forget to go to sleep when I was doing
yeah, when I first started doing it, man, I mean, I was in a band. We would just smoke and jam, and I mean, we all hours of the night, you name it, and we'd be doing all kinds of crazy stuff, just having fun. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean,
one time I stayed up past 10 o'clock.
Oh shit! I'm reporting this live chat for a red flag confiscation, man. That's just...
Oh man, yeah. And I guess I'm just showing my ignorance. I've never had marijuana, so I mean, I have been in a band. In fact, I was sponsored by Truth Custom Drums way back in the day. Oh, buddy, yeah,
nice.
But that's a different life, and now, of course, man, it's funny how life takes. It was a terrible band, first and foremost, a very terrible.
Well,
band.
weren't we all? But
no, I think our official name ended up becoming something like that. But we had like several, just like, hey, this is our name. That sucks. Hey, this is our name. Oh, that sucks. Well,
I mean,
something like that.
What was like the genre of music? Was it rock? Was it ska, punk, reggae?
More melodic, hardcore, post-hardcore, I guess you would call that. Still had a lot of very metal style riffs and rhythms and so on, but we had a lot of melodies on top.
So was it like the 90s era hardcore, or more the early 2000s?
Early 2000s. So had a lot of influence by like Hatebreed. That was a big one. But then you had obviously that there's a lot of these like emo style hardcore bands that came around. Under Oath was a big one that influenced us really big. Norma Jean, The Chariot, As Cities Burn, they were all huge influences on what we did. And I think today, if you were to listen to any bands that are still around that are playing a lot, Emery is probably the closest thing to what we kind of sounded like, where we had a lot of melodies, but we had some pretty hard stuff. Oh, disco. Oh, Daniel is God is my judge. Buddy, I would dance fight you to the death in disco. Come on, man.
What kind of band did you have, Gorilla? Silverback?
Challenge you, Daniel. He's giving you a challenge. The band I was in, I mean, we almost went on tour until my guitarist got arrested and went to jail for a year and a half. But the band, we didn't really have a set style per se. We did a lot of like heavy metal stuff, a lot of alternative type stuff. I mean, we were just kind of all over the place with our styles, because we were influenced by so many different types of bands and music out there. I mean, we never did any covers as far as it goes, like when we played on stage or whatever, but sometimes when we were practicing, and we'd just get a wild hair up our ass and we'd just remake a song. Like we did a really super heavy version of I Am the Eggman, Paul is the Walrus, Yeah, and then we did another heavy version of Dust in the Wind, and things like that. But
nice.
For the most part, we just, whatever came out while we were playing around is what we did. And that's just how we rolled, man. I at any given point, there was at least 50 people down in the basement watching us practice. And so we had a pretty good following too. We played some shows and stuff, and we were supposed to go on tour with a band called Sam Black Church. They're out of Boston. They're a big hardcore early 90s type hardcore band from Massachusetts, out of Boston. And they toured quite a bit. But yeah, we were invited on that tour, but that's when my guitarist got arrested and went to jail. So we kind of lost out on that one, And after that, I really, because I'd been in a few bands here and there before that. And then after that, I've jammed with some people and everything, but I just kind of ended up losing interest because I couldn't find another group of people that I clicked with so well as, we were just a little 3-piece band. So me and the guitarist did a lot of singing ourselves. So.
Yeah, it's so disheartening when you have that relationship where you know exactly what that bass guy is going to do, or exactly what the singer is going to do, and the chemistry in between you, in between songs is going to be fun, and you're going to get hyped up and stuff, and then you lose that, and you try to regain that with some other folks, and it doesn't quite work, and you don't have that chemistry. So I went to college for instrumental performance, right? My freshman year, I befriended a vocal performance major it was her senior year. Her name is Crystalline Souls. So you used to call her Crystal, right? But it's Crystalline. Anyway, so she asked me to play for her senior recital, and at the time, what was the name of the musical? It was the Wicked musical. The used to be the Wizard of Oz, but they made the book and then made it a musical. Wicked had a lot of singing in it. Anyway, she asked me. I was a freshman, right, to come and play drums for him. Like, okay, yeah, do this, right? So get into our first rehearsal, and I'm sitting down. I'm like, yeah, got this. I know the music. It's good. I'm going to get this. And so we'd start playing. From the first, and we'd play maybe 60 seconds, and she'd say, "All right, guys, let's take a break. Take a 5-minute break. Come back and only play for maybe 60 seconds, maybe 2 minutes." And then she'd kill it. She's like, "All right, guys, all right, forget it. Let's go get coffee across the street. Let's go get coffee." So we go get coffee. We come back. We play for another 60 seconds, maybe 2 minutes. And then she stops us again. And she's like, "Okay, let's go to the library. There's some friends of mine over there. Let's go hang out with them." And so I stop. I'm like, "Wait, you asked me to play for your recital. I want to make sure I'm great, and I've got the music, and I'm doing it right and just the way you want it." And she's like, "Yeah, you've already got it. We just don't have the chemistry yet. So let's go get some chemistry." And man, talk about my brain exploding in that. Yeah, it takes, and of course that the same is true in any job where you have a team of people, where you have to have that working chemistry to, jive and get stuff done and solve the problems. That's a big one, man. That's having that chemistry, and first of all, making the effort to try and build that chemistry. It's not always going to work, but if you're not, taking breaks and going and getting coffee or I don't know, going and getting a beer or hanging out, having dinner together, whatever. If you're not doing that with your teammates, then it ain't going to work.
Yeah. That's how we ended up. We had 3 scheduled days for band practice, but it became a 7-day-a-week thing. And, then we'd go out to the bar after or whatever, obviously not all the time did we jam out, but it was more often than not. So, but we can't let Josh slide. So what kind of band were you in, Josh?
Oh, I had really long hair. I was in a grunge rock band. I was a drummer. Not a kumbaya drummer like you, Silverback, as Daniel's talking about.
It's Kumbanana.
Kumbanana.
Yeah, I partook in some, hippie drum circles, man, passing the joint around and just, getting into the groove and the love of things,
Yeah, from like 12 to 14 years old was when I was in bands and stuff, and so I was like really into like Nirvana, Mudhoney, and stuff, and bands like that. Loved grunge rock when I was a kid, and we were grungy as hell, man.
Yeah, we did some grunge. I mean, because a lot of us we were into like Nirvana and all those Seattle type bands too. So we did a little bit of that, But yeah, I mean, I can't pinpoint a style of what we did because it was all over the place.
That's a good problem to have.
So you were influenced by Sublime?
A little bit, yeah. They weren't out back then though, so.
Well, what year were you?
How old I am, or what?
What year were you in bands?
Well, my first band that I was in was 1988.
Dang, man.
Wait. You're
when
not
you
that
were
much older than me, are you?
I'm
when you were
probably
3 years old, 4 years old,
no. I was born in 1975, so
I'm trying to help you out, man.
I'm an old fart. Yeah.
Man, I thought you were my age, man.
That's okay. So you've heard of the Irish, right? So the luck of the Irish is all bad luck. The only good luck I got is my youthful looks.
I don't know I
Continually
can't hear
being
nothing.
carded.
This is like
Yeah.
Oh no, Josh, did you lose the audio?
I can barely hear y'all.
Well, you're coming in loud and clear, man. Everybody
Oh,
else, everyone else hearing us good? Is it me?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I can hear him good. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you sound great, Silverback.
Let me take a couple more steps over this way. Can you hear me now?
Do you work for Sprint now or Verizon? I don't know.
Cricket.
Oh, that's right. It's Cricket. Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, are you guys NRA members by chance?
I'm gonna log off and log back in because I can't hear anything. I'll be right back.
All right. No, I am not an NRA member. When I got into guns, I mean, I haven't always been into guns, obviously, because I lived up in Massachusetts, and the the stigma they put around guns up there has always been kind of like it is today. So, I mean, there are several gun owners and people up there in Massachusetts, but it's kind of hard to get guns or whatever. But I never really thought about it much when I was up there. You know, obviously when I was a kid playing cops and robbers and cowboys and Indians and stuff, I always loved guns. We'd play army and all that stuff. So it's not like I was never interested in it, you know, back then. But it wasn't until I moved to a free state where you know, I could really get into it, and there was more people around who were interested in it that actually got me more involved in it. But you know, seeing everything I've seen from the NRA, you know, especially Wayne LaPierre and all his glory, it's always been, to me, I've always looked at it as a type of fear mongering to scare me into becoming an NRA member because of this, that, or the next thing. You know, I'm just like, I'm sorry, but I don't dig it, dude. You know, I'm not going to become a member of somebody who's just out there fear mongering. And when they're fear mongering, it just makes me think, okay, he's just in it for the money. They're not really in it for my rights. So I've never joined the NRA because of that. I am a GOA member and a VCDL member. Once I can seem to get my finances back on track, I'm going to get with the Second Amendment Foundation and Firearms Policy Coalition as well too. So yeah, unfortunately, the company I was working for went out of business. So the new job that I got doesn't pay half as much as I was making at the old job. So obviously that's why you seen I was painting that bumper today. Yeah, making some extra money that I got to make, you know, to supplement the income, you know.
Yeah, I'm always disheartened with organizations that ask for donations but don't ask for engagement. Right? They just take your money, but they're not asking you to do anything to help. And yeah, that stuff frustrates me.
That's what I love about GOA is they are just like constantly. Here's a link, right? Here's a pre-written letter to send to senators, representatives, and whatnot, and they're just like all over that stuff. I love that. I love that. And they're sending you letters in the mail to actually send off to the White House and all sorts of stuff. And I actually get letters back. I got a letter back from what's his name, Cloud. And he wrote a nice letter. It was sitting on my table. My wife walks in and it says, from the White House of the United States or whatever. It has this like official emblem on it and everything. She's like, "What'd you do?" I'm like, "Nothing. I'm not in trouble." But yeah, I mean, that's what I love about GOA is they're really, really good about that stuff. I also joined Second Amendment Foundation. And I know a lot of people like them. I don't know what to think of them though, because it seems like they kind of do the same type of marketing stuff as the NRA does. They keep sending me letters that they sent me one letter that said, we have specially chosen you to take part in this thing. We're going to do this broadcast stuff on radio stations and to spread the message. And we need you to send us a check for $144 or whatever. And if you're not going to, we need you to take this 16-page letter and go to the post office and mail it back to us if you're not going to send us this money. And I'm like, oh, whatever. I threw it into the trash. And then about a month later, not too long ago, they sent me a letter that says 2 checks enclosed. I'm like, okay. So I open it up and it says, so-and-so has agreed to donate $10,000 to our organization, but here's the catch. We have to match those donations. So we've enclosed a check for, I don't know, it was like $24 and $44. So please send us back one. Please send us a check matching one of these checks and send that back to us so we can, get the money to match the money that this guy's going to donate. I'm just like, and that's Second Amendment Foundation. I always heard good things about them, and I joined them because I heard good things about them. But this, I mean, to me, it just sounds like such a scam. It sounds like the NRA, but a little bit craftier in a way. But to me, it's just like, I just see bullshit, I just do.
Yeah, target audience comes to mind.
Right.
What is the audience that you think you're going to get a check like that from, right? Well, it probably isn't somebody that's under, 25 years old. Somebody that's 25 years old is like, trash. So
that sounds like those email scams that you get when people are like, if you got an ad on Craigslist trying to sell something, oh, here, I'm going to pay you this much more than whatever, and you hold on to it for me, and they'll come pick it up and you cash the check and it's a fake check. You lose your money and the product. So it's like, or
some Nigerian prince or something.
Yes.
I mean, and here's the thing is like y'all were talking about GOA, they send you stuff. They constantly send you emails. Hey, we need you to send this pre-written email to these senators and representatives and whatnot. And here it is. Please send it off, and you do it, or they send you stuff in the mail to send off, and you do it, and it's good, just like that. And every once in a while, they'll say, like today, they sent me an email saying, we need to take a stand against the standard capacity we need to defend the standard capacity magazines, and there's a big fight over this going on right now, and we're trying to do something or whatever. Could you donate some money? And I was like, yeah. So I just went ahead and just right there on the email, I was able to just donate $20 right there on the spot. There was none of this crap. Oh, well, send us a check back to match this check and to do this and to do that. And turn around 3 times and send it whenever the moon aligns with the stars and the sun. And it's like, dude, is there a big important fight that's going on that you need money for? Just say so, because I'm more than willing to help out. That's what we do. Don't try to scam me and pull this crap, because I can see right through that. I can see straight through that stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, but I grew up with the worst hustlers around. I grew up around horrible people. I know how horrible people are and how conniving people are. So I don't fall for that crap. I can see right through it. So I'm not liking the Second Amendment Foundation, and I'm probably going to drop them. And
I'm my mind about them.
Yeah, here's the problem. I mean, obviously you're very intelligent, right? You can see through a lot of the scams, and if it looks like a scam, if it smells like a scam, it's a scam, right? So you're not going to do it. How many people do you think responded to them with a check? That's the thing that wonders me. I mean, if they're doing this, they're banking on a return on investment. Nobody just goes out and says one day, well, I'm going to send out 1 million spam letters that are all going to go in the trash and it's going to be wonderful. No, they're looking to get something back. You're not the audience. You're not the target demographic. There is a target demographic that is throwing it back, and that's the one that frustrates me. The average, and this is just my opinion, I can't be certain on it, but the average NRA member is over 55 and lives in a suburb or a rural area. So they're marketing, like who was it? Daniel mentioned a little while ago, the magazine and the knife made in China. I mean, it's to guys that are like that. And I'm sorry, what did you just put up there, Silverback?
It says, I'm not a smart man, but I know a scam when I see one.
Yeah, you do have to throw in Jenny. I'm not a smart man, Jenny. Right? Yeah. Now, I mean, we can see that it seems like we're all intelligent. You know, we've been around the block. We've seen spam in our emails since the internet was invented, right? Well, there's a lot of folks that haven't, and they still believe that. And they're also probably the people that aren't aware of bump stocks and aren't aware of, impending legislation. All they hear is, what they see on the news that, President Trump this, President Trump that. And yeah, so trying to educate, and that this is okay. So I'm going to a point with this. The NRA has they say they have, I'm not sure if this is accurate. They say they have 5 million members. Okay. 5 million. Of the voting eligible members that voted in the last election for board of directors, only 6% voted. 94% of NRA voting eligible members didn't vote. Dude, it just makes me speechless. Like, this is so important to have our organization squared away, responsible with excellent leaders. And you're giving them money, through, sometimes very scam-worthy style letters and so on and so forth. And then you're not even involved. This demographic, this over 55 demographic, and I don't mean to insult anybody. If you're over 55, I'm not trying to be insulting. It is perplexing me. Now, of course, I'm in a generation where we're doing podcasts and we're listening to YouTube more than we do at, any news station. And so obviously it's completely different, night and day different persons and genres and whatnot, but I don't understand how to reach the 94% of people that didn't vote in the last election, educate them on how the NRA could probably shut their doors because they've, driven the bus off the cliff and then wake them up to do something about it, to call their board of directors or email their board of directors or, vote, be involved. Oh my gosh. It's maddening. And that's something that the anti-gun folks do so well. They make us look so stupid when it comes to showing up, because you better believe if there's a Moms Demand action rally in La Crosse, Wisconsin on February 1st, in a blizzard, God almighty, those silly Moms Demand action folks are going to show up.
Oh, and they bust people in from out of state too.
They absolutely do. And now, granted, that takes a lot more money and whatnot, but why can't we get that involvement? Why can't we get that same passion? If our rights are so stupid important, why can't we get the motivation to attend a rally, like on November 2nd at the Capitol grounds, or vote for the NRA directors? Or it just blows my mind. It's hypocrisy. People are saying shall not be infringed and have very strong convictions towards their rights, and then over here they're not walking the walk. They're talking the talk, but they're not walking the walk, and that disparity is just maddening to me.
Well, to me, that's just when I see someone saying, typing, like you said, shall not be infringed, and those, key sayings that everybody knows.
And I agree with, by the way.
I do agree with, but to me, it's like, do you like this band or whatever? Oh, yeah, I like that song. And they'll name the most popular song that's on the radio all the damn time. But they can't name any of the songs that are on all their other albums. They haven't listened to all that stuff. They're not actually into the band. They just know the things that they just know what's popular and everybody else knows. That's, to me, whenever someone keeps saying, shall not be infringed, and da-da-da-da, and they keep saying, repeating these key sayings, it's like, to me, it's like, come on, you got nothing deeper than that.
There's
I
so
mean, that's all you
much
can
more.
say is shall not be infringed 10 billion times. There's nothing more to me. That's just really shallow when people say crap like that. It's like, come up, say something deeper, or recite something that many people don't know, or come up with something original. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, to preserve liberty, it is essential that the whole body of the people always possess arms and be taught alike, especially when young, how to use them. Henry Richard Lee. By God Almighty, you dang right, Mr. Lee. Of course, he's 6 feet under now, but yeah, shall not be infringed. I totally agree with it. I get it. I totally do. But that's the doorway. We entered the doorway. Let's not stand in the doorway. Let's continue on. Get more information, get more involved, and do something, right? I mean, the other side says do something all the time. So somebody gets scared because a rifle is scary looking to them, and they scream, "Do something!" Well, our side needs to do something, and we need to do a lot more than just say shall not be infringed, which I agree with, but there's so much more.
Oh yeah,
See,
there's a lot more.
Well, they got the Bloombergs and the big money donators that are throwing a gigantic block party, and they're all showing up to the anti-gunners. They're all showing up to that, Whereas as far as gun owners, we got these stingy bastards like the NRA that are spending $274,000 on one-man suits, and no wonder there's no big block party going on. The big organization, the biggest organization, their money's not going towards us rallying together and basically throwing a big block party of gun rights activists coming together. It's more like, okay, I guess I'll drive 4 hours from here to Austin, and hopefully there'll be 20 people there, and half of them will be morons with making us look bad. It's just like
the BDU, the battle dress uniform, Daisy Dukes, and beer guts and stuff. Yeah, that's always fun to look at, right? Oh man. All right, so interesting thing. So Save the Second, right? When I started reaching out to people to try and start up an organization that would try to reform the NRA, or at least be heard by everybody that was ignoring us on the executive side and the board of directors, one of the first persons I reached out to that had, and I knew he was an NRA member. Somebody was telling me like, yeah, the guy's a life member. He's great. Our Save the Second president. I'm the vice president, right? Ooh, I love the title, vice president. Actually, I hate it. But our president of Save the Second is Anthony Garcia. Anthony Garcia, dude was a hero to me, and I didn't even know his name. In 2013, the state of Colorado had the Aurora the movie theater shooting, during the movie The Joker, which ironically enough, the Joker thing is coming out now, but I'm sorry, that was The Dark Knight, Rise of the Dark Knight. Anyway, so that happened, and Colorado's like, we have to do something, think of the children, all this stuff that we continually hear. State of Colorado did something, but was kind of ridiculous at it. So they said, all right, we're going to ban these high-capacity magazines. Okay, high-capacity magazines going to be banned. And they put it into law. So 15 rounds is what can legally be transferred. Okay? Transferred, not owned. Okay, so this magazine right here, I cannot give to you, but I can own it. Okay? Their assumption was that magazines would, and this was the Colorado legislature at the time, which was just obviously they're very intelligent folks, right? They thought that magazines once used would just be wasted and depleted, and so the amount of high capacity magazines would all be gone away by people using them. So if there was only 15 round magazines transferable, well, then that's all that would be available to use. Well, guess what? Every stinking gun store in the state of Colorado said, well, wait a minute. If I transfer magazine parts, I'm not transferring a magazine. So now you can go into just about every gun store in Colorado, pick up a parts kit to repair all the high capacity magazines that you had laying around, and so you're in full compliance with the law. And oh my gosh, all these Magpul magazines that I bought bought kits for, and so on and so forth. So here's where I'm going with this. It was stupid. It was ridiculous. It did nothing. It was frivolous, and it was just unbelievable. So Anthony Garcia, Timothy Knight, and several others got together here in Colorado, and they started a recall campaign to recall some of the state legislatures here. And guess what? They were met with a hell of a lot of resistance. Both Bloomberg and the Clinton ground team were throwing millions of dollars to save the political careers of the Senate Majority Leader, who they recalled. Okay, and there was one other. I can't remember exactly what they had. Like 4 on the list that they were trying to recall. They got 2 of them, and they were outspent like 22-1. Okay, 22-1. Bloomberg was spending $1 million, 22-1, and they succeeded. It doesn't necessarily take loads of money to rally the troops with a common goal and to get something done. Now, in hindsight, I'm glad that happened, because we haven't seen a lot of other frivolous laws passed yet. I think this year, toward the end of the year, we're going to see a few more in the state of Colorado. Probably next year, especially, we'll see like an AR ban of some sort. But they're all scared. We haven't seen anything since 2013's magazine ban. As a result of some guys from Colorado. Of course, now with Save the Second, I've got Anthony Garcia, a good friend of mine, and he became my hero because he was one of the ground dudes, the guy that was organizing stuff and getting it done, and they succeeded. They made it possible where now we haven't seen other stupid laws go into play, and now he's working with Save the Second to try to reform the NRA and make the NRA better. And dude, we don't need stupid amounts of money. All we need is people to be involved.
Yeah.
So
I guess if they hear from their members more and more, then that will help sink something into their heads that they need to change something and start to make more of a difference than what they have been in the past.
I know there's a mirror effect. So anybody that's watching right now, this is the NRA bylaws. Okay, NRA bylaws. If you are an NRA member, you are entitled to a copy of the bylaws, which has some very interesting things here. We can't remove Wayne LaPierre. I mean, one of my friends made a joke the other day. Is like, yeah, there's only two things certain in life: taxes, and we won't be able to vote for Wayne LaPierre because he's just appointed. The board of directors are the ones who appoint the executive leadership. But guess what? There's a lot of interesting things that we can do to make the NRA better, especially with the board of directors, and it's all in here. And 5 of the goals that Save the Second have, or I should say our 5 goals, of our 5 goals, 4 of those revolve around reforming the board of directors to make them more accountable, more efficient. We had a petition for attendance. We want board of directors to show up at board meetings. There's not an attendance policy right now. They could have never shown up to one. In fact, there's one right now, Carl Malone, who has never been at an NRA directors meeting. Never been. And he just got reelected into his 2nd term. So term limits and attendance. Attendance, we had a petition to add that to the bylaws saying, hey, you have to show up. Okay. What a novel idea. Directors that are elected ought to show up, right? And so they stonewalled us, 4 weekends ago at the fall board of directors meeting, which was in Virginia, just out by you, Silverback. Yeah, it's frustrating because the status quo does not want to relinquish any power, it seems. But hey, you know what? If we can rally the troops and reform the NRA, we are far more in a better position of just sitting on the couch and saying, let it burn and shall not be infringed and stuff like that. That's all I got to say about that. Sorry.
So, is there a plan to get rid of LaPierre? I mean, it seems like it's impossible. I mean, how is that to be done if the from what I hear, the board has no power. Like they're supposedly just figureheads that really can't do anything. You know, the final say so goes to the powers that be when it comes to the NRA. Is what from what I don't know if that's true, but from what I understand. So how do you get rid of LaPierre if nobody has the power to get rid of LaPierre?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because that's the way that it appears. And sure enough, it seems like the way that it's operating right now. This past board of directors meeting, of course, Chris Cox mentioned earlier, he had resigned, so the head of the ILA was gone. They had an interim head, and then they tried to make it official with a new official head of the ILA. And during Wayne LaPierre's speaking, he's like, "Man, Jason Weemay is going to be our head of the ILA," and everybody starts clapping, right? Yay! Okay, this guy's going to be the head now to replace Chris Cox. And first Vice President Charles Cotton stood up and said, "Pardon me, Mr. Wayne. I'm so sorry. Pardon me. Actually, the New York Attorney General, is, or I'm sorry, since the New York or the NRA is chartered in New York, it actually has to be voted on by the board of directors. So we'll motion for a vote now." In other words, Wayne LaPierre had just been that's the way that his operating procedure has been. He does what he does, or at least he is allowed to do whatever he wants. The board of directors, though, within the bylaws, has the final say, the final authority. They could remove him tomorrow if they wanted to. Absolutely, they could. Now,
why don't they want to?
Well, we know for a fact that 3 of them who resigned certainly wanted to see accountability. It seemed like Colonel Robert Brown, who is he's a soldier of fortune, one of the most famous Green Berets to ever live. Of course, a Vietnam hero, vet. I mean, amazing guy. He called Wayne LaPierre out. Well, at least it was leaked that he called Wayne LaPierre out. There's a growing uneasiness with Wayne LaPierre from some of the old diehards. But the problem is there's 76 board of directors, and 76 that largely have their heads in the sand, or perhaps have something to lose should Wayne LaPierre lose that power. And it seems like it's been the culture is, I'll scratch your back if you scratch my back, and the back scratching continues, and you have that circle that's, if one of them falls, it kind of makes the whole thing fall apart. So that's difficult.
So basically, to me, it sounds like when they have these meetings, you ever watch South Park?
Oh yeah.
Where the one person is up there talking and everybody else is going rabble, 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 rabble.
Yeah. They're taking their jobs. Oh, that's such a good episode, and very, very, crowd mentality. Wayne LaPierre, and it's become a cult of personality. I mean, it's so hard not to say Wayne LaPierre, when talking about the NRA. In fact, the news has started to do that too. When gun legislation is going on, they say Wayne LaPierre of the NRA. Like, they don't even have to say of the NRA anymore. It's synonymous. If you're talking about Wayne LaPierre, you're talking about the NRA, and that cult of personality is ultimately destructive, because the NRA is 5 million members. It's not a singular person. The NRA does not have power thanks to one person. It has power thanks to those 5 million members. So that's a huge red flag to me. That's who's passing the Kool-Aid. I mean, is David Koresh in the room or something? It's a Pied Piper, anybody, right? I mean, that's alarming to me. So, and don't get me wrong, I certainly don't want to bash Wayne LaPierre. He's done great stuff in the past. Off the top of my head, I can't recall. Okay, sorry, that sounds terrible. Oh my God, that sounds terrible, Mr. Wayne LaPierre. If you're listening,
it sounded exactly right.
Well, I mean, we're always looking for the champion, right? We're always looking for the guy that hits the grand slam, or the Peyton Manning that has. We want somebody to knock it out of the freaking park. And the problem is our gun rights have been eroded away one bite at a time, one bite at a time, one bite at a time, one bite at a time. It's incremental. The way to win it back, the way to win our Second Amendment rights back, same deal. One bite at a time, incremental. So we're always looking for the judge in California to say, well, magazine bans are unconstitutional. Go get your free magazines, right? We're looking for that one person to do it, but it's not going to happen. So many times the NRA gets a bad rap, or heck, half these organizations gets a bad rap because they're not knocking it out of the park. In reality, they have to play that one bite at a time, that incrementally win our rights back. And so it sounds so terrible for me to say that Wayne LaPierre, I can't think of anything that he's done right off the top of my head, but there are several instances in which he has definitely been instrumental in advancing the Second Amendment. Is that happening today? I don't think so. I doubt it. I highly doubt it. In fact, I think he's just wasting money at this point. But still, the NRA is and will never be one person. And so guess what? If we look to Wayne LaPierre, in fact, if you go on our website, savethe2a.org, you're not going to see any goal of ours to remove Wayne LaPierre. That's not one of our goals, because the NRA is bigger than one person, and one person's removal or addition does not fix these problems. The problems need to be fixed, right? In order for there to be any true advancement or reformation within the NRA. If Wayne LaPierre was fired tomorrow, guess who is going to replace him? Probably some sly, sickly SOB that probably does even more money laundering and embezzling and whatnot. Matter of fact, I believe it was Josh Powell, the guy that I was, ragging on, who Mr. Sexual Harassment man that's still working there. I think he's second in line right now to actually be the replacement for Wayne LaPierre. So if Wayne LaPierre left tomorrow, that stupid sucker is going to be there. So reforming the board of directors to make them smaller, actually attend, accountable for their actions, that's 4 of our 5 goals. And that last goal is trying to get people involved.
Yeah, it sounds like, especially with the higher ups in the NRA, that they've gotten this "I'm untouchable" mentality. So, and it's kind of been proven that and that's why they have that mentality. So really, if you're gonna look at getting rid of one, you need to do a multiple type firing thing, but you got to have a contingency plan in place with the people that you want to put in there to fill those positions that are actually going to accomplish something, especially if you want to give hope to the members that are kind of straying away from the NRA, to bring them back and give them confidence again. You have to find good people to, put in those positions. But it would definitely be a hard transition and a hard change. But if something was to happen, it would have to happen in bulk. I don't think it would have to happen with just one person at a time, because like you said, if you got one slick guy coming out and putting another one in his place, it's like the whole thing with Korea, where, Kim Jong-un's dad was bad and Kim Jong-un is 10 times worse, so that would be the transition there. So really you would have to just wipe out all of them at once, but have the other people ready to go and step into that spot right away, and that, I think that would probably create less damage. It's going to create some damage because it's going to be hard to pick back up and turn things around. It'll be a slow moving process, but it would create a heck of a lot less damage. And I think it, at that point, would inspire members to rethink the NRA.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think, Josh?
I think it's, Oh, no, I was going to say, I think for the most part, we just want to keep that name brand. I mean, that's really all they are, really. And however much frustrated we are with them, things are happening in the NRA. Big things are happening. I mean, we know that. No matter what, we can definitely say that. We can say that because their biggest voices were on social media. Hickok, Coleon Noir, Dana Lausch, all of them, they're gone. They're done with them. Everybody's leaving. Everybody's Cox is out of there. He says, screw this. Big things are happening for sure. I don't know if they're just holding on for dear life, trying to conserve what crappiness they have left and keep that, the corruption, and try to keep that good thing they have with being able to embezzle money and do all the horrible things they're doing. And the reason I never joined the NRA, or I did join them just because one of my instructors made me feel guilty for not joining them. And at that time, that was the only association I knew of. But the reason I never wanted to join them in the first place was not because of anything that had to do with guns so much, but looking into them, most of their money goes towards lobbying for rodeos and stuff like that. I mean, seriously, I'm not joking. Look into it. A lot of their money goes into lobbying for rodeos. A big chunk of their money goes towards that. A big chunk. It's not for guns. It's for all sorts of other FUD type crap, But
they were getting in trouble.
Huh?
Well, they were getting in trouble because of that from Ackerman McQueen, because they would do these bake ones. Anytime that they're funding these sort of things, they're looking for a return on investment. They're putting money out to NASCAR or to rodeos or stuff like that, and trying to get a return on investment. And so Ackerman McQueen got stuck holding one of the bills for a dinner, like a banquet that the NRA was serving, and yeah. So anytime you're seeing that, it's merely marketing. They're trying to spend money in order to get more donations and more money. So yeah, that's a scam cycle, it seems.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, that's what turned me off originally towards them is well, first of all, I hate rodeos. I just do. I just think it's just straight up cruelty to animals. In my opinion?
Is some kind of bad thing happen to you with a rodeo clown when you were little?
Dude, I'm not talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds to me like the entirety of Texas is calling for you to move right now. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe my ears. That's Texas saying that you're speaking blasphemy. Sorry.
That's fine. I don't care. I've never been one to go along with the crowd, but I mean, I've gone to rodeos. I just think they're disgusting. I mean, you're gonna put a clamp on a bull's nuts and ride them for sport, and then you're gonna body slam a baby calf, and then you're gonna break a horse's leg and do all. I mean, they're sick. It's disgusting. Like, just to exploit animals like that for no reason but entertainment. It's like, I don't know.
I'd rather just go see the monster trucks.
Right?
The demolition derby, buddy. That's where it's at.
The only thing I like about the rodeos is when the bull bores the human or the people get hurt, and when they get trampled and mauled up and destroyed. That's what I like about rodeos. I'm like, hell yeah, you finally got what you deserved.
Yeah, so everybody else in the crowd is like cringing, and you're over there like the Michael Jackson gif eating popcorn.
Yeah.
He's cheering the bull on.
Oh, gentlemen, it's just about time for me to get out of here. I'm so sorry.
No, we've reached the 2-hour mark, so yeah, this is usually where we cut it off too. Anyway.
Oh, good.
It's been great conversation for sure. I've definitely learned a lot about the NRA, I'm in the Save the Second Facebook group, so
thanks, man.
I'm watching a lot of the posts that are coming up there. So I'm gonna keep supporting you guys and trying to help you out if I can. So let's see where it goes from here.
Yeah, man, getting that word out and just trying to reach that 94% of voting eligible NRA members that are completely clueless and didn't vote. I mean, that's the biggest hurdle that we have to climb, climb. Yeah. It's an Everest of a mountain to climb. So thank you so much for the support, Silverback. It's been really cool to have you in the the Friends of Save the Second group. If any of your listeners wants to get into Friends of Save the Second and kind of see what we're doing behind the scenes and whatnot, it's not really behind the scenes, but yeah, more than delighted to have that happen. And by the way, I have to give a shout out to Mike Bryant, a good friend of mine who did your artwork, for, the
Yes,
page.
sir. He's actually the one that invited me into the group.
He's a good friend of mine. I met him first when I was working at a gun shop, and then he and I have been friends. For since then. Great guy. I actually watched him. He did a YouTube video on making the graphic art for that. I had no clue it was going for that, but Mike is such a great guy, and I love him to death. And so if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't know you. And you guys wouldn't know me, and it's a small world, and I like that small world, and I love Mike Bryant, and I love you guys, and thank you for having me tonight.
He's actually really close by where you live too, right? Because he's in Colorado Springs, right?
Yeah, he's like 8 miles down the road. No kidding.
Yeah. Mike's awesome, dude. I've actually helped him out quite a bit. He and his wife were going for some gun training classes, and they needed to have separate firearms, and all they had was his firearm. So I did a GoFundMe to raise money for him to be able to purchase his wife a gun. So
man, I didn't even know that.
Classes. Yeah. We got her what was it, a Glock 17 or 19, something like that.
Yeah, I got to shoot with both of them 2 years ago, maybe, or a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And oh my gosh, I love being out on the range, but I love being on the range with my friends even more, and getting to shoot with both of them. And in fact, I believe they had that Glock 19 out there at that time, or if nothing else, she was shooting a Glock 19 and having a great time. Man, it's such a cool small world.
Because they needed some ammunition and stuff too, so I raised $600 up for him, and Harrison from Harry's Holsters donated her holster as well.
Wow, that is just so freaking cool. I love it.
Yeah, man. I mean, I like to help out when I can. I mean, Mike had done excellent for me with the artwork and everything that he did. So, as soon as he had mentioned something about it, it just kind of came up in conversation. It's not, he wasn't asking or anything like that. He was just mentioning the fact that they were going for some training, and, they had to share a gun. I was like, no, you don't. So, it was just something I really wanted to do for him and his wife, because they are just excellent people.
No doubt about it, man. I think the world of them, and yeah, I wish I got to hang out with them more. It's been about 7 months since I last saw him. So yeah, after this, I'm going to have to send him a text message real fast and, hug his neck the next time I see him.
All right. You have any closing thoughts there, Josh?
Nope. Went to the range today, and I had 3 different video ideas, and I just couldn't pull that freaking tripod out. I was like, screw this. I do not want to record shit. I don't want to edit nothing. I just want to shoot. So nothing coming from me anytime soon. Not, at least not for right now.
Right. Yeah. That's that day I did that range therapy video. I was just like, I'm just going to shoot a whole bunch of segments of us shooting, and, whatever comes out of it comes out of it. I wasn't had any kind of plans for a video. Normally 9 out of 10 times I don't have plans for a video. I just get out there on the range, and whatever comes out is what comes out, unless I got sent something for a review. But even then, I don't have plans for a video. Like, I'll look up the specs for the item I'm reviewing, but mostly I just take it out of the box and give my opinion on it, and, shoot with it or whatever, and give my opinion on it. And I don't really care what anybody else thinks. If this is what I think, that's what I think it is, So
yeah.
But
I had a cool idea. I was gonna one of the ideas for a video was the 2 most missed shots, which is, of course, out of the holster and after the reload. Those are the 2 most missed shots. So I was gonna do a video on that and drills on that and all that stuff. And I was gonna do one on Harry's holsters, and do my first time shooting from appendix with a striker fire gun. I was shooting with a revolver last time, and and level 6 malfunctions where you have a double feed and you got to clear it all with just your left hand only. Clear the double feed. I was gonna do that, make a video about that, show how to do that and everything, but I don't know, dude. I just couldn't pull the freaking tripod out. I just didn't want to do it.
you just wanted to have a fun day of shooting. Sometimes that's not a bad thing.
Yeah,
Never a bad thing.
Yeah. But
Well, all right.
awesome chat, guys. I'm glad I learned about the. I'm glad I learned about. So, all right, do you have a YouTube channel, Ron Carter?
Yes, I do. It's completely underwhelming. My YouTube channel, it's called Life's a Bench. You will be bored out of your mind and contemplate suicide if you watch that. On the other hand, Save the Second. Save the Second, man. We've got a YouTube and a podcast that we started back. Next episode for our podcast is tomorrow night, which I need to get to work all the typey up things and get ready for that. But of course, you can check us out on Facebook as well. And what else am I missing? Check us out on our website, savethe2a.org, Facebook, Save the Second, YouTube, Save the Second, and you can find us on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and there's a few more. Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. I'll definitely go subscribe to that. Check that out.
All right, yeah, I'll check it out. I see the impressive loading bench, but reloading.
Oh my gosh, yes, it's even more lackluster. A single stage, man, just cranking out one round at a time. Okay, so one of my projects, if you can see right over here, I've got my vise. I've got a SIG P220 slide in the vise because a buddy of mine has Trijicon sights he wants me to install, and guess what? Replacing SIG sights are a pain in the rear. Oh my gosh. The only thing worse is an XD. And actually, I've had XDs, Springfields that, the sights come off easier than this silly thing. So I got to take a torch to it and you get it warm and then bang on it. And I might just have to go and borrow one of my buddy's sight pushers. I don't want to do that because that would hurt my pride. But yeah, this is my fun man cave.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, cool. Well, it's been a great chat, man. It was very nice to actually meet you in person. I know we've been chit-chatting a little bit on private messenger there, but yeah, we can do this again sometime. Maybe we can get what's his name, the president of the
as
well.
Anthony Garcia. I'm so sorry that Rob Pincus couldn't make it out today, and I misread his messages. And of course, we were trying to get him on as well, and he had plans tonight. Sorry about that.
Oh, I mean, it happens. I mean, I know people are busy. So, and it was kind of a last minute thing on my part as well. I was like, oh, I seen the opportunity. I had said something and he was like, yeah, let's do it. And, I was like, I tend to jump on things really quick. So
yeah, man. Hey, I love it, dude. Thank you so much for having me on. It's really cool to meet you guys, in person, too.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing lacking is, a little bit of my BO and a hug, so I'll definitely share that with you in real life at the earliest opportunity.
Cool. Well, all right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, have fun.